Thank you, Jeremy. Welcome back to our panelists and our audience today, our participants. And indeed, this second session will be about the private sector perspective, the Cambodian private sector perspective, either Cambodian businesses or foreign businesses in Cambodia, on the opportunities and challenge presented by the RCEP agreements and provisions on e-commerce. And joining me in this panel today are 5 investors, 5 businessmen and women that are invested in Cambodia on e-commerce and have gone through the pandemic with different fortunes and successes. I have heard about RCEP, some are quite knowledgeable about the RCEP, but what we want to know from them is what does that mean for them? Is this opportunity? Is this a threat? Is it an obstacle? How do they prepare to use the provisions of the e-commerce chapters to grow their business across borders? In this panel, we have so far 5 representatives of businesses in Cambodia. We have Mr. Maxime Rosberger. Bonjour, Maxime is an e-commerce entrepreneur with a decade of experience in Southeast Asia and emerging markets. In Cambodia, he's very well known to start Meal Temple, was one, maybe the first, or I would say the first food delivery business in Cambodia in the early 2010s. He is in a mission to improve, digitize, and modernize the brick and mortar businesses in frontier economies, so not only in Cambodia, but also in Laos, in Bhutan, and elsewhere. He made himself a precursor of the implementation of responsible delivery using, for instance, electric vehicles. I think this was the first one to introduce that in Cambodia. And then Meal Temple merged with the fintech called KiwiPay to create KiwiGo, a super app enabling financial services, on-demand delivery, last mile logistics, and created the cryptocurrency token KGO using the Binance Smart Chain blockchain. Since 2019, he also co-presides the French Tech Cambodia, which is a French government-backed initiative led by entrepreneurs to improve the digital landscape in other markets by employing locals. And he also won, and he's still one of the key contributors to the e-commerce law and the e-commerce strategy in the last few years. Welcome, Maxime, to the panel. I then have Longda Chair, and Longda is recognized not only in Cambodia, but also across borders, especially for what he's done with BookMeBus. So Longda started his career path as a software engineer with a strong background in cloud data technology. Then he decided to put his skill practice into a project that's related to social issues. And at the young age of 26, Longda founded BookMeBus with his vision to tackle the travel dilemma and saw technology as a long-term promise to raise Cambodia tourism travel standards and a door to all international travel. So basically, you come to Cambodia, you can book through BookMeBus your bus tickets, your ferry tickets, your even train tickets, and other services. He's also an Alibaba and UNCTAD eFounder Fellow and elected as a country ambassador to Cambodia. And besides that, he's also an alumni of the International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP, a premier leadership of the US State Department. Thank you, Longda, and welcome to the panel. I then have looking to you, Chair Rata, and Rata has appeared in many different panels and a different designation and a different title. She's here today representing the Cambodia Women Entrepreneur Association, as well as her own business, because this is through her business that she gathers her experience. She's an accomplished software executive with over 10 years of experience in software development. She worked as a financial analyst in California and in Sydney, Australia. And each of these workplaces, she used the synergy of her skills as a software developer and the financial analyst to help grow and improve the business processes of the company. In 2011, 10 years ago, Rata co-founded Versita Pty Limited, which is a technology service provider company in Australia. And after returning to Cambodia in 2016, she founded Khmum Technology, a technology service provider company that specializes in e-commerce. And she also founded an app that we are all familiar with, which is called Mom eShop, which is an e-commerce platform with an app-based end-to-end marketplace that connects MSMEs, emphasizing women-led businesses to consumers in Cambodia and beyond. And I don't know how she finds the time, but she's also volunteering in different associations, in the Cambodia Women Entrepreneurs Association, in the Cambodia Digital Tech Association, where she's a vice president, in the Cambodia e-Business Association, where she's a treasurer, and she's also an advisory board member of the National Council of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Welcome, Rata, to our panel today. We then have a familiar face to Cambodia, because I think it's one of the few foreign investors has been in Cambodia longer than myself, is Prayag Chitraka from DHL Express. Welcome, Prayag. Prayag was born and raised in Nepal. He arrived in Cambodia as a very young entrepreneur in 1999, and ever since has rooted himself in the country. He devoted his entire career at DHL Express. I don't think we need to present DHL Express, but Prayag is one of the pioneers of the growth of the logistics industry in Cambodia. Back in the WTO time, Dr. Sipana, we already could count on the input and the guidance of Prayag, and still here. He witnessed the country, how the country and DHL business evolved over the years. He started his career in sales and marketing, and with excellent people and people skill and leadership skills. He had taken over the role as country manager in 2012. And then since then, he has led the Cambodian team towards continuous double digits by DHL Express in the country year on year. So welcome, Prayag. I'm very happy to have you on this panel. Last but not least, I have Kenneth Tang, who is here representing AustCham, the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Cambodia. And Kenneth is the managing director of Dynamics Technologies. He's been in that position since March 2019. Prior to moving to Cambodia, Kenneth has an extensive business information technology career, working in multiple industries across various countries, in Hong Kong, in China, in France, in the US, and of course in his native Australia. He started his technology with Coca-Cola Amatil Australia in 1995, worked at Computer Science Corporation, AXA Insurance, Scottish Provident, UK, and has consulted with many Fortune 500 companies. He was actually born in Battambang in Cambodia, and then his family moved to Australia at a very age. So he attended schools, university in Australia. Very happy to have him back in Cambodia, where he's currently as well the board director of Urbanetic Pty Limited from Singapore, and a board member of the Australian Chamber of Commerce, AustCham Cambodia, as well as the vice chair of the Eurocham ICT Committee Cambodia. So you would agree with me that we have a very robust panelists, and they have diverse experience of e-commerce, ICT, cross-border e-commerce in Cambodia. So I look forward to a very rich discussion with all of you. The way we are going to structure this panel is we have roughly a set of 1 or 2 questions for each panelist in 2 rounds. The first one is about what is it that you are doing now? How do you prepare for cross-border e-commerce? What have been your observation, your experience of dealing with all these new laws, new strategies, new decrees that we have heard about? The second round will be about the future. How do you see your businesses growing across border? Is RCEP or agreement RCEP are going to help you? What are the obstacles? What is the need? What are the needs you have in terms of capacity, in terms of knowledge, access to capital, maybe access to finance, to grow your business in this RCEP context? So without further ado, I'll go to the questions, and I'll start with you, Maxime. Maxime, you have been involved in Yes. So Maxime, you've been involved in a number of businesses.
ធុរកិច្ចជាច្រើន
And I would like to ask you, what are the challenges faced by digital startups and platform operating from frontier markets like Cambodia, or you also have experience in Laos and Bhutan, in going regional and global? We see RCEP as an agreement involving 50 countries, but how easy is it to business from Cambodia, digital startup, with the difficulties we have here in Cambodia, to grow regional and to grow global? What is your experience? What are your observations? And each of our panelists have 5 minutes roughly to answer each of the questions. Over to you, Maxime.
Yes, thank you, Sven. Hello, everybody. So about the opportunities and the difficulties for startup in Cambodia to go global, I think the first thing is operational efficiency, the cost of logistics, and also the cost of banking. So I can give you maybe a good example of one company that is in Cambodia that developed Cambodian products, and since few years they are trying to sell their products made in Cambodia abroad. So it's cosmetic product. So a few years back, they had set up this website, and with the goal to send product from Cambodia in Europe and elsewhere in Southeast Asia. After a few months trying, to connect logistics, banking with their WordPress, so it's a simple website, they decided that it was not feasible. So they couldn't export, they couldn't send product out of Cambodia properly to clients around Europe or even Singapore. So what did they do? Because this company is investing a lot into the brand. They believe that their brand have some opportunities abroad. So what did they do? They had to ship a stock of product into France. So they shipped bulk product in France, so that they could warehouse in Europe. And that being done, they started to sell in Europe. So how? They could install PayPal on their website, so they could get settlement easily. They could enjoy logistic structure from Europe. So example, now on their website, if you order a Cambodian product with delivery in France, it will cost you $0 delivery fee. If you order a Cambodian product in Italy, it will cost you around $10 delivery fee. If you order the same product in Singapore, you will have $45 delivery fee. And if you go on their website, Cambodian website with Cambodian product, and try to order in Cambodia, you cannot order in Cambodia for delivery. So the lesson here is this company had to find a way to export their product. It cost them stock warehousing in Europe. It cost them a company opening in Europe, and it cost them all the logistic problem that they might have. So imagine now this company is producing new items. Before they can put it online, they have to send it to France. And when they have a stock issue, before they can re-put the stock online, they have to send from Cambodia to France. So all these things shows that the will of a company in Cambodia to grow their sales outside of Cambodia, but they weren't able due to the logistic and due to the banking environment right here. So this is, I think, shows a lot of what it involves. It involves the environment, of course. And in Cambodia, if you would like now to start exporting from here, you would need to have some specific payment gateway. We don't have PayPal or Stripe in Cambodia, so you need something that is less trusted maybe by the global stage. You will need some logistic by air, because people today don't want to receive their goods after 3 weeks. Of course, they want to receive the goods after 3 days maximum. So all these things and how you declare these things. So all this is maybe one of the barriers that for startups and other direct-to-consumer brand to get traction from outside Cambodia. So here's an example. I think for the service, like online services, we we have websites like Enhance or Fiverr, where we may have Cambodians selling their skills, selling services online. So to date, when you work online, for example, on Fiverr, you get a payment. You get a payment from your customer. Example, you receive $50, and you would like to receive this money to your bank account in Cambodia. The transfer fee will be around $10. So you will lose 20% of your income just with banking transfer. So this is also the kind of operational efficiency that people need, where we can fix things, how we make sure the flow of money can go from one border to another, how we make sure to manage the currencies, and how we make sure to have fast settlement, direct settlement, so that merchants can actually improve their cash flows, and also they could actually find the fact to work abroad more profitable than locally. So I think I have covered few difficulties that, of course, aside from capital, aside from cultural difference, aside from physical distance, that can be a barrier for to export themselves. I hope that's good for you, Sven.
Yes, thank you, Maxim. It's very practical. This is exactly what we wanted. I see that that Prayag is smiling, because I'm sure DHL is going to answer with some very good suggestion for your logistics, or the logistics of that company you're mentioning. But Prayag, the time is not yours right now, and I'm going to move from the logistics and the export of goods, as Maxim mentioned, to the so-called export of people, of labor, which is actually one of the services that BookMeBus through Langda was providing, ensuring that the tourists can buy, and also the locals, of course, can buy the tickets online. And I understand from Langda that he also started to invest in the region in partnerships in other countries. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, the tourism sector has been hard hit, especially in Cambodia. So my question to you, Langda, thank you for joining it. How is the travel and the transport sector, especially passenger transport, is adjusting to the pandemic and preparing for the reopening of borders? Do you see potential for cross-border travel and for a business like BookMeBus to continue to strive in the context of this RCEP agreement? Over to you, Langda.
Thanks, Sven. Thanks for having me here today, and good morning, His Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually the right timing for having one of the travel player in this panel, because yesterday, our government just announced the open of the tourism in the country. First, with domestic travel, and the government also do a trial of the scheme of travel bubble, like a sandbox, where we put Sihanoukville and Kokong as a sandbox, like with life restriction for international tourists to have fun there. So this new, actually, I believe it put a little bit smile on all tourism stakeholder and player, which we have been, waiting for almost 2 years now. Like there's a big pause, that is a big slowdown in travel sector, especially with accommodation business and stuff. So let's go back a bit of when the pandemic first hit us at that time in 2020. We, until now, some our bus partner, our bus operator, cannot afford to survive, cannot afford to stay. They have let off staff, they have sold their bus, some are closing down, while some also trying to shift their focus from transferring passenger to transferring goods by leveraging on their fleet, on their bus, on their VIP van. And so good news is we see a lot of positive signs right now that travel start to reopen. Those it's not like before. It will take some time to be able to recover, but travel is always, you know, the most important part of everyone's life, of people's life. It's part of the lifestyle. So everyone's is waiting for, you know, they might have their wish list. They want to visit this place and that place. So that is good things. So what we have done within the past 2 years, we have we start to see is that most of the businesses, especially the bus operator, they start to have a push in digitalization, which they start to value the use of technology. For example, like the human touch point that everyone always believes that Cambodia is not ready. People are not tech savvy. The customer is not ready to adopt digitalization, mobile app, online booking and stuff. But actually, the lockdown, the travel restrictions has pushed digitalization and the eye openings to this SME, small bus operator. You know, that they actually not necessary to have that many staff stand by at the counter while people can book their ticket online using the mobile app. And of course, it's our technology. We are behind that technology. And good thing, one of the other good thing is with the post-pandemic, right? So now this business, this operator are not only having to deliver passenger, but they also, you know, can serve logistic, the transport of cargo between city as well. So on the positive side of the pandemic, we do see that the importance of digitalization has been growing, and it's opened up more services for the business owner itself to realize that the potential of using technology can help into you know, scaling up their business. At BookMeBus ourselves, we start to see a growth now. So starting from September, so month-on-month growth of our ticket sale has been double every month. That is a good thing. And now some of our partners also, you know, they have laid off a lot of staff. It's almost like, even especially with the accommodation business, like some of them at some destination spot, they start to be overwhelming with the demand, with the pent-up demand that like people like go over there and overbooking, and they start to, you know, increase the premium pricing for traveler. So yes, there's and thanks to the initiative, the achievement of our government as well, with the vaccinations rate that we achieved, almost 100% of our population has been vaccinated, and it's very important, you know, for travel business. Why, like with our bus driver, right, all are vaccinated, and we even adjust the plastic seal to separate between the driver and the passengers, so that we keep everyone safe. You feel secure to travel on the bus. And so we also keep implement some social distancing. Where before the pandemic, like this bus owner try to squeeze people, you know, to maximize their seat availability. But right now we start to realize that safety first. People have to keep social distancing. Yes, and there's also some good news about our neighboring country like Thailand, right? There's some of the collaboration of the open of the border, where we do it in Sihanoukville and Koh. So Thai people can come to Cambodia, Cambodia can come to Thailand, you know, with a less policy, with less restriction. So that's a very good news. Yes, and I hope there will be some initiative will be opening up next. So right now it looks like our government also pilot testing with certain destination first. So soon it will be Siem Reap and Battambang and other area of Cambodia. Thanks, Sven.
Thank you, Langa. So I am happy to hear your more optimistic voice than last time we talked 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So very happy to have Book Me Bus on board, and then continuing in the innovations and attracting tourists to come to Cambodia and safely book their travel online. I'll come back to you, Langda, in the second round on what you see coming for the next few years. I'm turning to Chearata. I don't know if there is a family link between the two, but LCT, Chearata, thanks very much for joining us in this panel. You are a familiar face of many different panels in Cambodia, especially on ICT and e-commerce. I have a first question to you, and this goes back to what Dr. Soxipana was mentioning earlier on, the fact that we have very dynamic business associations, federation in Cambodia, helping members understand the benefits and the opportunities out there that the agreements on the RCEP agreement present, but also e-commerce itself present. We have a very dynamic ecosystem in Cambodia. So the question to you is, what type of services or what type of support or advice does CWA, Cambodia Women Entrepreneurs Association, provide to your members or future members that want to start a journey from offline to online, want to be on marketplaces, want to sell on marketplaces? What do you tell them? What the service you provide? What's the direction they are taking? Are they just giving up because of the number of regulations they have to comply with, or they just try and innovate? Over to you, Chearata.
Thank you so much, Sven. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you to Sven and ERIA for inviting me to join this important webinar. And good morning to Dr. Soxipana. So the context in which SME operate is dramatically changing due to the rapid pace of technology and digital advancement in Cambodia, and one of the most promising market for digital technology. So most of them expect growth, at least stable development in the future, affirming that women are motivated and capable to establish the lead businesses. Consequently, women tend to face more obstacles in terms of the access to market and the information and the operation issues of their businesses. Women own the majority of business in Cambodia, as we know, right? But they are still micro inside, and they are lacking, lacking in terms of technology and information, all those things. Yeah. However, with the shifting pattern of the global and regional trade and the rapid expansion of digital technology, there is further scope to exploit the full potential of SME. The stiff domestic competition, mostly stemming from the highly informal sector, is one of the top challenges for all SME, particularly for those led by women. Women are preferred to stay informal due to the lack of incentive for formalization and the high cost involved. So for CWA, we developed called a 3E rule strategy that we apply to our own company and also our association. The first E is engage. CWA is focused on expanding inclusion and increasing of SME with the developed and strengthening network through a series of special events and workshops in target province in Kanda, Siem Reap, Battambang, Kampong Cham, Kampot, Sihanoukville, etc., right? Ratanakiri, Mandalkiri. And we also have the business clinic platform that has been established for the mentorship and the coaching approach for women entrepreneurship and business leadership along the other issues based on the feedback from the SME lesson learned from the COVID-19 pandemic to be resilient in the time of the crisis. The second E is equip. We equip members to align with the Cambodia digital priority and the digitalisation transformation of the economy for women entrepreneurs in Cambodia, and we will empower them, empowering low skill and small businesses who currently are not aware and do not have access to the latest technology, and accelerating the e-commerce adaptation. Initiative to strengthen capacity of SMEs, transforming member business model from the traditional to digital platform, and transforming member business to become both in business and technology, but also in society as a whole, because member will do business with everybody in the society. And our last E is empower. CWA aim to empowering the women entrepreneur with the knowledge and the skill that would help them in asserting and claiming their business and entitlement in order to advocate with the government on the welfare, being the prime responsibility of the government. CWA also will provide implementation, capacity development, and knowledge support, and will gradually move on to hand-holding the women entrepreneur till they are able to up and on to the supporting the women entrepreneur in society. The fact that the changes are rooted in SME sustainability will be ensured in the long run. Furthermore, CWA will strengthen in fundraising, result-based management, and grant seeking to ensure sustainability of the association. CWA represents women leaders in business and the newest influence in the fast-growing impact on employment and economy in country. Entrepreneurship as a tool for the empowerment, we have learned that e-commerce have undeniably become the important part of our society. The successful company of the future will be those that take e-commerce seriously, dedicating sufficient resources to its development. E-commerce is not an IT issue, but a whole business undertaking. Moreover, e-commerce is helpful business technology that gives the consumer access to the business and the company all over the world. Also, we have learned that during this difficult time, we all need to adapt to the new normal by using the entrepreneurship mindset of turning difficult situation into the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Data. We've tried to keep track of all these different initiatives and all the different E's. We'll do a small test at the end to check if people have remember what the 3E means and see if you had an impact, at least on our audience. But thank you very much. You didn't mention We Could, the initiative that was launched, I think last week, on the women entrepreneurship capacity development for digital economy, which is also spearheaded by Khmer eShop and Cambodia Women Entrepreneur Association. That is to say that there are growing numbers of initiatives and opportunities for women entrepreneurs to move from offline to online, to sell online, and to avail of these opportunities that are presented to Cambodian businesses through e-commerce. So thank you for reinforcing this message, Timjurata.
Thank you.
Right. So I'm going back to Prayak, who has kept quiet, but I know he has a lot of different solutions to offer after 22 years in Cambodia. Obviously, DHL is a global company, DHL Express. You have the potential to rapidly take advantage of these mega agreements like RCEP, CPTPP, ASEAN, and elsewhere, etc. So for a company like DHL Express in Cambodia, what does RCEP mean? I know you're practicing trade facilitation. You're practicing a single window every day of the year, but is there a special approach to making sure that Cambodian businesses, especially e-commerce businesses, can avail of this opportunity through the services that you are providing? Thank you, Prayak, for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Sven. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests and fellow panelists. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Prayak Chitrakar, and I'm the country head of DHL Express Cambodia. As you may have known, like we have a service in more than 220 countries and territories around the world. Regionally, we have a very strong presence, which is a backbone of RCEP, which was signed virtually in November 2020. Over the past years, as Dr. Sipana mentioned earlier, that we have been working closely with relevant Cambodian government agencies, Cambodian Chamber of Commerce, Eurocham Cambodia, GIZ, Arise Plus, on trade facilitation, especially on simplified custom clearance procedure for cross-border consignment. DHL is utilizing our global network, provide knowledge and expertise to interested parties on local export regulation and destination market insights, including consumer preference and opportunities for growth, customs and de minimis value and trade regulation and customs information to reduce trade barriers. In addition, we also provide operational excellence as we have a dedicated aircraft to support cross-border requirement, particularly for the time-sensitive shipments. We do provide real-time shipping tracking, industry knowledge, and custom-related information to our customers prior to ship internationally. Now, just to touch back on the question Maxim has raised in terms of exporting the cosmetic product from Cambodia. In the past, we had no issue, but then what happened was, since the pandemic impacted, we found that lots of import is coming into Cambodia, and then Cambodia is becoming a channel to export it out from Cambodia, and these cosmetics are not produced in Cambodia. So the customs are obviously concerned, how did you import these items? Why you are exporting out from Cambodia? So that's why there was some strict regulation implemented, and that was the impact. But then we understand this challenge, and we have reached out to custom, and then we are helping some of the customer who are producing in Cambodia, genuinely producing in Cambodia, and then exporting it to other countries. So I think, Maxim, I will get back to you and we can discuss in details how we can help. However, I am not able to help you with the payment gateway, which you mentioned another challenge. That I cannot help, but in terms of the transportation, definitely I'll be more than happy to sit and discuss on how we can support each other. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Prayak. That's that's very useful. We knew that you had solutions, at least for the logistics part, which is your business. For the payment part, we'll go back to Maxim and hear from him what are the typical challenges that cross-border payments present for Cambodia. Before I do that, in the last question for this first round, we've moved from the Cambodian entrepreneurs to the association to the global company. Now we take advantage of your dual nationality and dual experience, Kenneth, to go back to you as a managing director, of course, but also as a representative from Australia and Auscham. And we want to understand whether you've seen more interest in investing from Australian businesses into Cambodia in the services sector or in the e-commerce sector. Is the agreement, the RCEP agreement, making investing in Cambodia more appealing? Dr. Sipana mentioned the new law on investment. What's your observation? Is Cambodia ripe for these new investments that we want to promote into the country? Over to you, Kenneth.
Yes, good morning to everybody, Your Excellency Sipana, and to my fellow guest speakers. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm very privileged to be here. You touched on quite a few things, and I hope I'll try and be direct. I think in general, Cambodia is always ready for business. I think we are a country that's looking to grow, and unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've had some fairly big setbacks, particularly in tourism. Our tourism represents roughly about $5 billion annually. So with the outset of the RCEP, I'll talk about it from a business point of view. We just think, similar to what Deborah said, I don't think it affects the technology sector immediately. E-commerce in generally is more like a domestic industry. We don't really export a lot of e-commerce things at the moment. And then having said that, I still think technology sector going forward, irrespective of RCEP, it's just going to be strong. If you look at all the many industries that have been heavily affected by COVID and the pandemic, technology is just shown to be super resilient and even grown in that time. If you look at, growth on growth, technology has in some ways exploded during the pandemic. In terms of where I see the RCEP, I think as well is, I think manufacturing is going to benefit our garment and textile industry. I mean, it currently accounts for about 70% of our exports. And then it's supplemented by, some agriculture and rubber. But I think that is going to grow, because if you're going to reduce the tariffs between the ASEAN countries and the 5 nations, such as, China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, I just see there's going to be growth in that, what I call low cost and high volume manufacturing. And I think coming back to Ken as a tech guy, I think RCEP doesn't really affect us because we're still working in I4C. We always make jokes about, there's always death and there's taxes, but I think there's always going to be technology. I don't see it being affected by anything. In fact, I see it as one of the top industries for the foreseeable future. And we work in, say, for example, an industry that's sort of, I kind of share it like an Australian and then a Cambodian perspective. From an Australian perspective, we've always relied on technology because labor is so expensive. Look at the labor costs in Australia. It's one of the highest in the world. We have very, very generous, we call labor rates, penalty rates, public holidays, all that. It's very generous. So when you use technology, we can try and reduce our labor costs. From a technology from Cambodia, I think we've somewhat underinvested over a period of time. And I think we're ripe and ready to be more invested. So if you're looking at, the advent of data analytics or big data, we're talking about smart cities, smart IoT, digital payments, industry 4.0, industrial 4.0, like the smart IoT for industries. Cold chain, for example, we have a lot of food that we import. So we need to maintain our food quality by investing in cold chain solutions. Like, how do we maintain, that minus 18 degrees for frozen foods? How do we maintain, the 3 degrees for vegetables? It's such a complex market, and I feel we're getting there. If you look at, I love this story about Kurisu. Kurisu Farm has really invested in, we call it smart cow IoT. They manage the birth of a cow right through to the production of milk, right through to the supermarket where we can go and buy milk. It's just such a great story for Cambodia, and I'm super proud as a Cambodian that this is what we're doing here, and I feel that that's just going to grow. And for me being here, I'm just really, really excited. I'm passionate, and if you look at the sector, I mean, we are very young. If you look at our general population, we are, I think 70% of Cambodians are 35 years old or under. So unfortunately, I'm part of the 30%, which I'm a bit sad. But the excitement is that 70% of new generational leaders. And I love the fact that I can be part of that, and we can work with the younger generation, and so that they can groom the next generation. So it's just very, very exciting to be in Cambodia right now. And that's my thought from the Chamber's point of view, because the Chamber is very active from looking at investing in infrastructure such as water and roads and consumer protection, the technology itself, and of course, how does this affect the Cambodian economy? So hopefully I've shared my insights, and I'll share the floor back to you, Sven. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth. I love the optimistic and tone in your presentations. from what you observe and what you want to see happening. So that's very heartwarming, I would say, especially considering that we make the investment climate better, so that businesses come and not always invest in agriculture, for instance. I mean, the example you gave is very good, but also consider manufacturing and of course services. And we see more and more investment inquiry in the services sector, ICT and others. So thank you, Kenneth. I'll come back to you in the second round with another question. But now I want to move to the second round of question, which is actually looking at the core of this webinar, which is public-private dialogue. So you are all private sectors, you all have interaction more or less with the governments. The next session would be a dialogue between the e-commerce association and the Ministry of Commerce. I want you to feed into this discussion that we will have in session 3, and I want you to tell us from your own perspective what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved for Cambodian businesses invested in e-commerce to really benefit from this new flow of investments and possibly generated by the RCEP agreement. I'll start with you, Maxime. You mentioned, Maxime, a number of issues that you have been facing with payment, logistics, etc. From your standpoint, you've been involved in a number of discussions, public-private dialogue on the e-commerce law, e-commerce strategy. What are the low-hanging fruits? Where can the government, bearing in mind this work plan on RCEP that has been prepared by ERIA, where should they start? Is it on the payment side? Is it on education? Is it on greening the logistics? I know you are a big fan of greening the logistics in Cambodia. What are these low-hanging fruits that the government of Cambodia, Ministry of Commerce and other ministries should consider to make your life easier? Over to you, Maxime.
Yes, thank you, Sven. I think the major challenge that are remaining are all around the shopping experience. So how we make sure that the consumer that buy a Cambodian product abroad have a great shopping experience. So the low-hanging fruit would be, of course, to have platforms like Amazon, eBay, Alibaba that allow Cambodian merchants to add their products and to export. So that, of course, would come with the environment, warehousing, and all logistic means that are necessary for this platform to allow merchants in Cambodia to be available. So I think that's the main thing. If we can let merchants access to the main global platform, that would help export for sure, and also that would help entrepreneurs in Cambodia to show their brand abroad, to have a direct-to-consumer strategy on social media, but with the help also of big platforms that solve a lot of problems like payment and logistic. So I think maybe that's on top one, making sure that one of these major platforms have investment in Cambodia, especially for the logistic, because of course DHL is here since 20 years, but a DHL package costs $50, while when you send a product that is a $10 value, it doesn't really make sense. So at the beginning, we will have low transaction value. Of course, we will have small transaction, but this is also something that will change, and it's changing also in Europe. At the beginning, people was buying small things online, and more going into brands and high value goods. So, for example, you can have people ordering fashion brands from Europe. This is really high value goods, and this is the kind of thing that Cambodia can do also with silk products, for example. So I think it's all about logistics here. We have good opportunities. We have also companies like GT Express, ZTO that are doing the job, especially in province. Currently, we have maybe more than 50% of the population that is still outside of urban areas. So there is this challenge on how we make sure the merchant can ship to Phnom Penh, and then these goods can go to globally. So mainly for me, the main challenge are for the central banks, for sure, how we get the settlement in our currency. For the custom administration, for sure, how we make sure to streamline the payment of tax, how we declare tax faster, how we make sure to not lose 4 or 5 days during the custom process. And yeah, those three things are the main challenge for Cambodia today. And but there is good opportunities since we have now like big platforms and more e-commerce is going omnichannel. So more and more those platforms, those big players are taking space, and they are a way for Cambodian entrepreneurs to access the global market more than ever.
Thank you, Maxime. And if I could give a piece of advice, is please keep engaging the government as you've been doing in the past on payment, on logistics, on skills as well, because this is, as Dr. Sipana was mentioning, by listening to the concern of the private sector, we can improve the laws and regulations and the implementation of these agreements that Cambodia has to do, and the government has to take the lead on. So thank you, Maxime. We've taken note of the low-hanging fruits that you suggested, and I would like to pick up on one of the points you mentioned, and going to Langda. Langda, you've heard what Maxime just said, what Kenneth said before. You grow your company out of Cambodia. The technology you've developed yourself, the business you developed yourself. So do you feel that this innovation ecosystem is strong enough in Cambodia, whereby digital startup can have access to innovation that is created by other SMEs? You know, we've heard a lot, and I'm sure Dr. Sipana will concur with me about this missing link of SMEs in Cambodia, that businesses like yours can grow to a certain point, and then they have to buy technology, buy services outside Cambodia because they can't find a solution here. Is it still the case, or are there improvement, or how can we get access to the innovation from within Cambodia?
Great question, Sven. We actually at Bokmibus, so during the last 2 years, we have shifted our focus while there's a lockdown, but there's travel restrictions, and then we shift the focus into e-commerce and logistics. We founded another venture called Weething, which we during the lockdown in Phnom Penh last time, we partnered with one of our logistic company called Vidabuntham to do the bus, like provide the grocery on the bus, right, to the people in need, especially at Stemnijek area. And recently, we also partnered with MOC with the Longan crisis, the food crisis in Battambang and Somlot. So we have worked directly with the farmer and a stakeholder at that area, to kind of like have transporting orders, providing an e-commerce platform as a window for farmers to sell their fruits, their agricultural products on our platforms. And recently, we just partnered up with the One Village, One Product Association as well, to really, expand this knowledge, this leverage on this tool that we have our strength to utilize our strength in logistics and e-commerce. And thanks to the experience that we done with Bokmibus with the traveler side, last 6 years, that Bokmibus has partnered with all the big platforms like ourselves in other countries like China, Ctrip in China, Busbot in Canada, and more in other countries. That those people can offer Cambodian bus ticket, ferry ticket, and taxi booking on their platform without their Canadian, without their are Chinese, aware of BookMeBus. They can just come, do the integration, come and board the bus with the QR code, even without, they don't need to speak English or Khmer to the bus inspector. So that experience really teaches a lot, so that we're starting to apply the concept on our e-commerce platform. We think right now, we also, so since I'm the one of the e-founder of the Alibaba Fellowship, so thanks to that connection, we are in discussing with the Ali people there. They have the possibility of we also bring Chinese product to Cambodia, but also from Cambodia to China as well. So this has been in this discussion right now, but we hope that we can keep this off, because our logistic partner also have 2 warehouses in China, and he'd been transporting goods between border already, right? So we hope there's a good thing there.
Right. Thank you. So there's hope. There is hope that we can access the technology, and that the technology will be also imported to Cambodia, so that companies like yours can actually use it and improve the services and these seamless applications. Thank you, Lambda, for being with us. Again, using what Maxim said and what Lambda said, I'd like to go back to Jonathan. And what you heard from your 2 previous speakers is the need for businesses to be online, to be physically online, to access to platforms, to access to marketplaces. But it's a giant step, for businesses in Cambodia selling local products to even consider that, yes, I'm going to go on Amazon, on Alibaba, on Shopee and sell my products. It's frightening. So how do businesses or members of CWA, how can they actually prepare this internationalization on selling on international marketplaces? Do you have a kind of intermediate step where CWA can help those businesses to have a presence online, and then maybe from Cambodia look at the cross-border? Is there any cross-border marketplaces in Cambodia, so that before they move to Alibaba or Amazon in the future, they gather experience, they adjust their product, they adjust their digital marketing to the new customers out there outside Cambodia in a kind of secured or controlled environments that you will be providing. So is CWA in that business of preparing internationalizations of digital businesses?
Thank you, Sven. Earlier you mentioned BQ. I was gonna mention it in this section because of the time allocated on the first section. Thank you for bringing it up. So CWA will embrace digital transformation and take the leading role to help build women entrepreneur capacity upgrade toward the digital economy with the project initiative BQ on the digital and financial literacy training and linking to the non-collateral financial support using the inventory stock and the sale transaction for the MSME. With the BQ initiative that launched on, as you mentioned, on October 28, to help train 400 MSME, we hope to show the world that investing in women is not a charity, but an opportunity. So CWA welcome collaborative approach because we know that collaboration play a pivotal role in knowledge sharing, particularly important on the multidisciplinary, multi-country knowledge sharing, innovation and development work. A collaborative approach includes more than just working together. It refers to the ability to work together and take action on a large-scale projects. Traditional strategic planning is a good model for the discipline that will require to rebuild our economy. Thinking together refer to the series of interaction involving government, development partner, and the private sector through a triple helix approach of collaboration. Because of this great collaboration, we have many strategic initiatives, such as MSME Support Center. Gender Sensitive is a platform where we put all direct service to support women entrepreneur MSME and support them to develop their portfolio and to grow there from offline to online. Also, we have partnered with CBI on the virtual trade show. And we selected 12 companies that supported by this program that get them ready for export. And also TFO Canada, another market access is coming partnership with the TFO Canada. We're targeting 20 exporters to develop both gender awareness, product standard, and shipment commitment to Canada. TFO Canada also asked, maybe some of you are aware that they also have an e-trade, e-commerce platform where Cambodia producer can be linked to Canadian and USA buyer. So number 4 is our e-portal. CWA has the ambition to come up with the e-portal cross-border e-commerce platform that will be in the stage of development right now. So number 5, we also partner with digital capacity and development program finance literature with a good return sponsored by National Bank. Also, we also have a legal desk support on the challenges on registration for the cross-border, for the e-commerce, etc., that helping women entrepreneur with the barrier. Also, we have the collaboration with the bank to help with the financial literacy upgrade and enhance them with the bank technology and financial literacy as well. Yeah. So also we are the focal point, CWA focal point for the ASEAN access, the ASEAN directory portal where the services provided to international like business matchmaking. Also, we are working on the white paper for helping women local product find access to market. Our second white paper that's what we focusing on because of right now local Cambodian product very difficult, especially small packages, very difficult to export outside because of the, as mentioned by our guest speaker, the using DHL $50 is very expensive, right? To have this $10 package, but pay the shipment $50. So I'm hoping that Landa also have this solution to go export in high volume with the AliExpress. That is a really great initiative. So we know that in order to transform Cambodia into the medium income earning country in 2030, we have to help other half of our as much as we can. Which is the women, right? I think half our country and half our company will run by women. That would be a better world. I envision investor, developing partner, and CWA can join hand for hand in hand to enhance the knowledge of women entrepreneurs and the role of the women in business in Cambodia, and help prepare women entrepreneur capacity upgrade toward digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was not aware that you were going to talk about WeFeud, which was launched last week, and it's a very good initiative. And I'm very happy that it's not the only initiative. There are many other initiatives, and thank you for going through them and quickly. And I encourage our audience today, especially women entrepreneurs or women business owners, to get in touch with CWA and avail of all these opportunities that you have described. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan. I'm going back to Prayag. Prayag has been mentioned. I mean, DHL has been mentioned a few times, but of course, DHL has its own business model, and it cannot change its fee structure just to make sure that each shipment will be profitable. However, we know from experience that DHL Express has implemented a number of reform, of improvement to lower the cost of trade facilitation, especially across borders. Again, Prayag, we have a panel, we have a dialogue, public-private in the next session. And I see here Mr. Momvarin the vice president of the Cambodia Business Association, has just joined us, and he will be the voice of the private sector in the next session. So I'm sure he's listening very carefully. So what are the improvements that have been made in the past few years for cross-border trade facilitation, and what else could be done? Where the government could still make improvement to reduce the cost of doing trade cross-border from or into Cambodia? And you only have 5 minutes. I know you can speak around 2 hours on this subject, but I'm sorry, you only have 5 minutes. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Sven. Just to address the tagline of DHL being the most expensive. Yes, we are one of the expensive courier company. However, recently we have been really pushing for the B2C business out of Cambodia, and this 10th of November we are doing the workshop with the SMEs called Power Up Your Potential. This is where like we really wanted to focus on the B2C businesses, where like we wanted to support the SMEs, right? And DHL not in Cambodia, but worldwide, we see that SME is the way to go, and this is the future of the transportation, right? Now, coming back to your question on the best practices, how to decrease the cross-border trade facilitation costs. Actually, we have been really closely working with the General Department of Custom and Excise on various initiatives, and in recent year we were able to manage to implement the de minimis low value non-dutiable goods, and the threshold for de minimis in Cambodia is $50, right? And there was a big support from Custom House. It helped business a lot in terms of time and cost saving. So we are proud of this achievement, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank and recognize the good support from GDCE. Now, over the past 3 years, since even before the COVID impact, we have seen the growth in e-commerce consignment, especially imported to Cambodia. And we have been and we are still advocating relentlessly on the simplified clearance procedure and digitalization. We are working with the relevant government agencies and international or local chambers to push for these simplified procedures, right? As you may know that there is no separate regulation to cross-border procedure for small consignment through express and postal services in Cambodia. Treatment of similar small consignment is given the same treatment as the container sea freight or heavyweight freight in terms of the procedure we are looking at, right? The paperwork requirements and the time consumption. That's why like we have putting lots of effort to meet this initiative, meeting with the Custom Department. We are using a channel like Cambodia Chamber of Commerce, Eurocham, and not only that, like we are even like meeting directly with the customs on the discussion on how we can work together. We have been working with the legal department of the customs, technical department, and IT department. And recently, like just past week, we have been also using this EU ABC meeting with the Cambodian government agencies, where like our regional vice president of custom and regulatory affairs in Asia Pacific had virtual discussion with Excellency Kunnem on the procedure for low value goods, and we could see positive response, and we strongly hope that this will be able to have a new procedure for low value shipment in the near future. And this is definitely going to be a good for the businesses as well as Cambodia as a country as a whole. So let's hope that the the push we are giving is, helping to streamline the simplified clearance so that import-export will be much easier. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pray. I just have a follow-up question, which is asked by one of our participants. Maybe I can rephrase. I can rephrase it. You mentioned the de minimis threshold for Cambodia at $50, which is an average in the region. What would be the impact of raising this to, say, $100? Would it be a positive impact, negative impact? Would there be more e-commerce businesses across border? What's your take on that?
Definitely, Sven. And this is also, we are trying to push to increase the de minimis threshold because the more de minimis threshold, the de minimis means like there's no duty and tax, right? So that means like it will definitely support the trade and facilitate it. And we are, lobbying for that as well to see. But the challenge is like, countries now, Deborah mentioned in her presentation this morning that countries like Australia is scrapping up all the de minimis. Even like when we look at ASEAN now, like if you look at Indonesia, I'm not so sure 100%, but I think like they reduced the de minimis to $3. So there are, changes happening, which is not helping the business, but definitely, if we were able to bring from 50 to 100, definitely it will help.
Thank you, Pride, for sharing your take on this.
Thank you.
I'm going back to Kenneth, and Kenneth, the tough question goes to you, I'm afraid. So how do you say about the potential of Cambodia's businesses, about investing in Cambodia? So what is the magic formula, the magic recipe? One, to bring more investment, in that case from Australia, into the services sector in Cambodia. And second, we know Australia is one of the pioneers in fintech. We see that in Cambodia, it's quite difficult for commercial banks to lend to, let's say, the ICT, the tech sector. They see it as very risk-prone, and banks, by nature, they are risk-averse. So we are looking into ways to attract different type of finances from venture capital to angel investors, etc. How can we bring them, especially from Australia, to take an interest in investing in Cambodia and take advantage not only of Cambodia and Australia being in our set, but also of this new law on investment that Dr. Sipana mentioned? Again, you only have 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I know it's a very long question for a 5-minute answer, but hopefully you can help us in that. Over to you, Kenneth.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sven. I will try and keep it short and brief. I think when you mentioned earlier that, from an Australian point of view, and I noticed later on, I think you've got, Anthony Sampson speaking. Because of the new Mekong Australia partnership, I mean, that's going to be, I think it's slated for about $230 million, right? So I think that's an entry point for a lot of Australian companies to tag on that. They can actually have a look at local companies here. And it's very much twofold, and I'll try and keep it brief. From a Cambodian perspective, there's that hunger to grow. So we want to grow our personal skills, our leadership, and we want to learn also from what are other countries doing. Because from talking to my own colleagues, we're probably not the most exposed, like or probably a better word, not as well traveled as perhaps other countries within ASEAN. And if you look at who even has a passport in Cambodia, it's still relatively low, from a global average. And then with that hunger to grow, we want to sort of grow from, being an insular economy into a more vibrant, open, and inclusive economy. And I always say, like, if you want to learn, do you want to be with a good mix of people? So you want to mix with other locals, you want to mix with other companies overseas. So you want to have that exposure. So I see that from a Cambodian perspective. If I was an investor from Australia, I think I would look at obviously the numbers, and there's some of the, I guess, rough numbers for me. Cambodia still has a relatively low labor cost relative to complete output of total GDP. And if I was going to pitch it to an Australian investor, I'd keep it really short and sweet and say, would you want to invest in a country where 70% of the population is 35 and under, which means you're going to get this growing middle class for the next 20 years, guaranteed almost? There's 153% penetration of mobile telephones, which means the average person has 1.5 telephones, right? So it's a very technology, I wouldn't say technology savvy, but I'd say technology comfortable society, right? We're comfortable with technology. And then another staggering figure is 78% of Cambodians are on Facebook. So if you want to launch your product, launch your new service, launch whatever e-commerce business, you just do it on Facebook. 78% of people on it. You just push the Facebook. And with the low labor cost, you have a growing middle class. You have consistently in the last 10 years, Cambodia is in the top 3 of GDP growth every year. That is a staggering figure for an investor. And coupled with that, we have low barrier of entry in Cambodia. I mean, it's very easy to set up a company, you know, set up your taxes and all that. I just feel that that is a very convincing and persuasive proposition from Australian companies, because Australia's, again, looking at high labor costs. We have a very generally developed society. The average person in Australia is educated at tertiary level. So we need to partner with countries like Cambodia to reduce our labor costs and increase our markets. You know, I have a story. I mean, Woolworths, which is one of the largest organizations in Australia, it grew by buying other companies, and it's grown so much that you can't buy anything else. So it has to look overseas, because they own petrol stations, they own liquor shops, they own hardware stores, they own, you know, so Australia has to look at other countries to get that, well, maybe you call it partial organic growth, but also to acquire, you know, new assets. So it's a very, very persuasive proposition to invest in Cambodia. Absolutely.
Oh, I want to invest. I already invested, but I want to reinvest. Thank you, Kenneth. That was really passionate, but also realistic. It's really pragmatic and true. Those are the advantages that Cambodia presents vis-a-vis its neighbors. A young population, very open economy, a lot of opportunities in the services sector as well. It's growing with dynamic digital startup scene as well. So. Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you for being with us today. I have just, I think, 1 minute left, and I would like to take advantage of the presence of Dr. Sipana still here with us. Thank you for staying, Doctor. If you don't mind, I have a question here from the audience on the grace periods that Cambodia has for the implementation of these key measures. You've been a top negotiator at the WTO, so I'm not going to check your knowledge on transition period, but is it a good thing or is it a curse to have this 5 to 8 year transition period in a sector that is evolving so fast as e-commerce? So what would you tell to our participant here that is asking about this transition period? How do we make good use of this period? You're on mute.
Okay. Transition period, it's good when you are not ready. But in this case, I would say we are ready. So it's just that, you know, well, I cannot say anything about how we negotiate this grace period. But, by default, as an LDC, when the negotiator will always want to squeeze some grace period. But to me, as our economy is moving fast, I don't see the need to stick with the grace period. If you can do early, you should do it. It's more like the 5 year is not a must. If you can do faster, then better. But if you're stuck, then you still have 5 years. So in that sense, I would say, look, let's be real. I mean, if the negotiator don't ask for that grace period, he'd be in trouble at home. Because some people say, well, why didn't you get the grace period? Because you are allowed to as an LDC, right? So I understand the rationale. But again, in this dynamic environment, we should not even care about this grace period. We should move forward, capture the market, move into to develop a business opportunity. That's how I see it. To me, grace period is never bothers me. It's just that for some for some people, they might say, well, it's good to have a grace period in case we cannot deliver. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the word of wisdom, and I'm sure you'll be heard by our government officials in the room. With this, I think we'll come to the end of this session too. We are almost on time. I'd like to thank you all, our panelists from KNS, from NCT Rata, Maxime, Langda, and Prayag for your time, for your candid views. I hope Mr. Monvarin, who was also here with us in the session, has taken note of all the requests, suggestions, recommendations that the private sector has to the government. And with this, I give the floor back to Jeremy to take us through the next session. Thank you, everyone.